Welcome back to the Mark Moses Show, only right here on Sports Radio 95.9 The Fan, and right now here on the Club 52 Hotline to talk a little Florida Gator football. And this football team's been busy over the past couple weeks. His name is Scott Carter with GatorZone.com, official website of the Florida Gators. Scott, how you doing today, man?
Hey, doing well, Mark. Like you said, it has been busy of late up here, but doing well today.
When you look at the timeline, man, the Gators, they lose that game against Florida State. Muschamp's let go. And then, like, a couple days later, they got a new football coach. I mean, it's been a crazy time for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has. I mean, when the decision that Foley made to let Muschamp go, he said by Christmas he was hoping to have a new coach in. So it kind of left it open there. It could be a month, but fortunately it was a lot less than that. Obviously, the way it turned out, I mean, he targeted Jim McElwain pretty early after, having that 2 weeks of really research time before the Gators played FSU in Muschamp's time. That gave him a head start, and then once Colorado State season ended, he immediately contacted them later that night and, got the thing going and turned out to be the right guy, and now the Gators have their new coach, and he has a big job ahead of him.
I know you've talked with Jeremy Foley lately. The number one thing was offense. I mean, you could tell me that now because they've already made the hire. Offense was the number one job requirement, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, with the way things have gone the last few years under Muschamp, I mean, the defense has been dominant. The offense just didn't really progress at the same rate the defense did. And, Florida fans have kind of made that known that, hey, we love our offense. That's what Florida football means to us. And, Jeremy Foley spoke to that at the press conference when Muschamp was let go. He said they were looking for a guy who knew offense, who had a background of offensive success. And, you didn't have to look far, really, in Jim McElwain, although he was at Colorado State. I mean, Florida was very familiar with McElwain and what he did at Alabama. During his time at Alabama, they met the Gators 4 times. They beat them 3 times. The last time was 2011 here at the Swamp. And so he was familiar internally with these guys. But until they did the research and really started looking at candidates, I mean, it took them, that's when he really emerged, and they locked in on him.
I want to get your take on Muschamp because you covered the team for a couple of years for GatorZone.com. You're around Coach Will Muschamp all the time. I feel bad, I really do, because I know he wanted to succeed, but at the same time, he's going to be just fine. He's a really smart guy. He knows defense. I think he's going to be fine as a coordinator or maybe a head coach. What about you, Scott?
No, I totally agree, Mark. I mean, I won't be surprised at all if Will Muschamp gets another chance to be a head coach down the road. I mean, we know what the guy can do defensively, and even when you look at this team that McElwain inherits, I mean, he's inheriting a team with a really good defense. I mean, they're going to be fine on that side of the ball next year. Yeah, he's got some work to do offensively, but Will Muschamp's very good at what he does. I think he just maybe that not having that head coaching experience before taking this job, maybe it hampered him. At 20/20 hindsight, we all have that. But at the same time, when he was hired here, I mean, I thought it was a good hire because I knew he was coming from Texas, and they liked him enough to already have named him head coach in waiting for Mac Brown. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he's a well-respected coach in the industry. He's going to land very well wherever he decides to take his next job. And, he made no enemies here. I mean, he leaves in really good terms. And unfortunately, he just didn't win enough games, like he said, and that cost him his job. But he did build the program. I think McElwain's inheriting a program that's in pretty good shape.
You got to take me back to last Wednesday where you're around Gainesville. Maybe you're on airplanes. I don't know what you were doing, but it's like, oh, we got our guy. We don't have our guy. Oh, wait, we do. I mean, what was going on there in Gainesville when you're trying to cover this stuff?
Well, it was obvious that they, Foley had his guy. McElwain wanted the job. And it was just going to be a matter of, getting the dollars and cents figured out. And, just knowing how these things play out, usually when you have two parties who want to get a deal done, they find a way to get the deal done. And, Florida, it was creative, I thought, in the way they worked out that deal. Obviously, they paid $3 million to Colorado State. McElwain threw in a couple million. That's how bad he wanted the job.
Yeah.
And, of course, they have that future game here that guarantees Colorado State $2 million. So it was a little different. It was a big payout, but at the same time, they did it creatively, and they got their guy. And ultimately, if McElwain comes here and wins and kind of returns Florida to promise, I think it'll be well worth it.
Shouldn't he say that? Hey, I gave $2 million away to come win here. I shouldn't he be like, I'm unpredictable. You don't know what to get from me.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of addressed it a little bit. I mean, the other day at his press conference, I mean, he obviously did want this job. I mean, that's how much it meant for him. I think his direct quote was, "There's only a couple of these kind of jobs in America, and Florida is one of them." And it was worth him to dig into his own pockets and get this job. He's 52 years old. He's been coaching for 30 years, and 3 years as head coach at Colorado State. But he knows that this is an opportunity that not a lot of guys get.
What is the expectation around campus right now? He's only been there for a couple of days, but is it this feeling from the fan base like, oh yeah, we're going to be good again. We're going to score touchdowns and we're going to dominate the SEC? I mean, what's the take around campus right now?
Well, I think there's definitely a positive movement right now. I think it was big that they got a guy who does no offense, as we talked about earlier. While he was kind of an unknown, I think, to a lot of Florida fans, because, like I said, other than Alabama as offensive coordinator, he really hasn't had a high-profile job until he got to Colorado State. And even then, a lot of people in the SEC aren't exactly following Colorado State on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. But I think once they started doing their homework and looking into this guy, and wow, he's done some pretty impressive things. And, you tie him into the game that really I looked at it as the moment that Alabama became the elite program in the SEC was that 2009 SEC championship game when the Gators lost, with Tim Tebow. And since then, Alabama's been the premier program, and but McElwain was involved in that. So that had some cachet, I'm sure, with Gator fans after they learned that. So, there is, I think, an upbeat mood going into it. But right now, McElwain's out on the road. He's got a lot of work ahead of him. I mean, he's spending this whole week on the road just trying to recruit.
What are you trying to say? Tebow needed 10 years of eligibility? What are you trying to say here, man?
It did change. I mean, he's too bad he didn't have a couple more, but I mean, that's just the game that, turned the tide. It literally, since then, it's been a kind of an uphill climb for the Gators, and they're hoping McElwain kind of pull them back up to Alabama's level.
I want you to know, we're here with Scott Carter at GatorZone.com. I want you to know, when I was watching the SEC title game and I'm watching Missouri get run over in the fourth quarter, I'm like, enough of this. Can we get the Gators or South Carolina? Can these rest of the teams wake up in the East and make sure Missouri doesn't go back?
Yeah, I mean, Missouri, I will say that I really think what they've done in their short time in the SEC is pretty impressive. I mean, back-to-back SEC titles. Yeah. I didn't see that coming. I mean, I just showed you that Gary Pinkel is a heck of a coach. But, traditionalists like myself and people who follow the SEC for a long time, it is fun when it's the Gators and, Tennessee, South Carolina, those programs that we're familiar with and some of those big names going against, the SEC West has just kind of dominated the conference the last few years. So it's time for the SEC to get back in there, man.
See, this one I get confused on is I cover the East. So I'm looking at South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, the Gators. I don't really do the conference SEC when I see Bama winning. I don't like Bama. Is that okay if I don't root for the conference right now?
I think you got a lot of people on your team there, Mark. It's one of those things where they've been so good for so long. I think a lot of us are getting tired of them. But just from a sports fan or just from a kind of a historical perspective, it is pretty amazing what they've done there. And it's going to be really interesting to see that matchup with Urban Meyer and Ohio State in the playoff. I'm really looking forward to that because, again, who was the Gators head coach that game that we mentioned? Urban Meyer was the head coach. So a lot of history there, man.
They're making it possible for me to want to root for Florida State because I don't like either of those teams. Is that cool? How about we go with that route? We'll actually root for Jimbo and his crew.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to have many Gator fans on that side of the either.
Okay, what about the Gators playing in the Birmingham Bowl 2 days after the Seminoles play? What? Why are they playing this game January 3rd? Come on. I like the Gators, but they have no business playing January 3rd, right?
Yeah, the bowl schedule it's gotten so weird over the last few years. I am glad to see that they're putting emphasis again on New Year's Day because, I mean, growing up, man, New Year's Day, that was you knew you were going to watch 6, 7 really good games that day.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going back to that model, which I'm glad to see. There's still some stragglers out there, like the Birmingham Bowl. I think there's another bowl on January 4th. So, it'll be interesting to see if they pull all those bowls back, maybe back into the calendar year and let the big bowls take over New Year's Day again like it was in the old days. But it's an unusual time, an unusual matchup. But, it's a chance in the Gators world, it's a chance for these players to try to do something to impress McElwain, get a win, and just try to kick off 2015 in a good way.
Yeah, it's kind of weird where last year, Scott, there was no bowl game. So at least the players get that, right? At least the experience of playing in a bowl game, because a lot of them, if you started last year, didn't get that.
No, I mean, it was the first time, in 22 years, I think last year, without a bowl game. And, it is an important part of the program to have a bowl game because coaches always talk about those 15 extra practices that they get, which will start up next week. I mean, that is huge for your underclassmen and guys going into next year and just finish them with a win. I mean, that's a huge thing. So, and McElwain said, he's going to be at the game. He's not going to be involved in the game plan and all that stuff. He's going to be watching. He's going to be evaluating. So there's a lot to play for if you're one of these guys who coming back next year with the new head coach.
All right, how about this? Here's what we'll do, all right? For $10,000, you get to sit by the new coach of the University of Florida and hear what he has to say during the bowl game. And we give all the proceeds to charity. How about that?
Hey, maybe on to something, man.
Yeah.
I might have to fly that one. That's not bad. He said he was going to tailgate and eat popcorn, so as long as he'll share his popcorn, somebody's lucky.
Yeah, because I wanted to see him like Treon's playing quarterback. He's like, I would have thrown there. Oh, really? Interesting. And real quick, we're with Scott Carter, Gator Zone. What about the Florida Gator basketball team, man? They haven't played well, and then all of a sudden, they laid the smackdown against Yale. How impressed were you with that victory?
Yeah, that was impressive just because of the way that, a few days earlier, Yale upsets UConn, the defending national champ, and the Gators blow an 18-point lead at Kansas. So you're looking at that game right away like, whoa, Monday night's going to be a tricky one at the O-Dome. Mm-hmm. But Florida came out and played their best game of the year by far. They kept the pedal to the metal, as they say, from start to finish and really answered the second half. I mean, that had been kind of their Achilles heel. They played well in some first halves, but really lost some games with lackluster second halves. But that didn't happen against Yale. And, Billy Donovan, I'm sure, is hoping that's just the start of more to come because, you look at this team, they're talented. I will be very surprised if they're not an NCAA tournament team and with a chance to do something come, March. But right now, they're certainly a work in progress. But Monday night, that win against Yale was a step in the right direction.
Okay, how about this? Here's your bonus thing. How about we see if Casey Hill can play wide receiver for the Gators? He's got the speed. Come on, can we get him?
Yeah, he could obviously go up and get those jump balls. He had that dunk the other night after the still, so they could use him.
Great stuff. Scott Carter, GatorZone.com, official website of the Florida Gators. Scott, thank you for the insight. I know you're a busy man, and have a nice holidays with your family.
All right, Mark, you too. Take care, bud.